Patch 1.2 just went live for Stalker 2 and brought in some great additions and changes that I think a lot of people are looking forward to, especially with the fact that it fixes over 1,700 issues with the game, but I don't think this is going to be the one patch that fixes all your issues that you might have with Stalker 2 that might be more attached to the game itself rather than having a buggy experience, which was the launch of the game, but it certainly has improved over time. Not to downplay this update, it actually has made a lot of great changes that I want to highlight in this video. Of course, the link to the entire patch notes will be in the description down below. But if there's any kind of information you want to walk away from to get the spark notes of what is all different when it comes to Stalker 2, basically it's this: the new controller ability, player's flashlight now casts shadows, NPCs can now loot corpses, AI shooting accuracy fixed, and over 400 main story and side quest fixes, and of course, like I said earlier, a lot more. But if you want to know everything, make sure to stay tuned throughout the whole video to understand all the details. So let's start off with the gameplay changes when it comes to the Stalker 2 update. What's going to make this update play different than what we've been playing for the last few months? A big thing is with the AI in alife. The 5 main things that were changed with this update is that they fix a bug with alife NPCs unable to properly approach corpses. Now they can pick up best loot and weapons from them and switch to more powerful weapons. A big change for me is the fixed NPC shooting accuracy. This NPC accuracy is something I've definitely experienced. It seems like so many times they're able just to shoot across hills and trees and everything in between. They had perfect shots where you can't even see where they're coming from, and you just have to rely on your UI, which definitely takes you out of the experience of playing Stalker 2, which relies on that immersion and knowing the sounds and the environment to really be able to accurately move and predict enemy positions and gameplay and stuff like that. But when they're just constantly able to shoot you from like super far away where you can't even see them, it definitely gets in the way of the gameplay, and I experienced this quite a bit. So what they've done, they have reconfigured bullet dispersion accuracy for all distances for all weapons, added randomization of accurate shots in the bullet spray, and reduce all wall penetration in certain NPC bullets. Again, good to make sure they make that distinction, because obviously a high caliber round should be able to go through some surface, but I definitely come across this a lot of times where I was like in behind cover and still getting lit up. I was like, come on, what the heck's going on here? Stealth was actually improved on this. Hopefully it makes it much more of a viable play style, because it's fixed an issue after a melee attack, the NPC would end up behind the player. Adjusted the time of identification of the player character by NPCs, and fixed an issue with NPCs at Malachite location could notice players at a long distance and through objects. A lot of improvements were made to the mutant combat as well. Most of these were really just fixes of bugs and issues, but not really drastic changes, more just things that like were definitely bugs and need to be changed because it wasn't acting properly. Interesting thing here that they added a roar ability for the controller. This should definitely help out with these encounters, mainly just because whenever I come across a controller, I'm like, yeah, the bigger thing is definitely the enemy AI that it spawns when it comes to your losing your mind against these battles, right? But it doesn't really seem like it's just kind of more of a bullet sponge of the guy who just kind of slowly walks around. It's not really much of a threat to you, much more of a nuisance, really. So hopefully adding this will kind of make these encounters a little more of a threat to the player rather than just something that you need to constantly shoot to then be able to move forward in your story. Now, there were some balance changes that were made, but some of the things I think were kind of left to be a little bit more desired when it comes to these changes here. We'll just run through them really quickly, saying that a weird water arc artifact and anti-radiation effect was reduced to fix the issue with the grenade in one of these situations. Now, NPCs need fewer shots to kill pseudo-dogs summons, and also increase frequency of jump attacks from blind dog mutants, rebalance pistol and silencer attachments, decrease spawn rate for NPCs in exoskeletons, and reconfigured armor distribution of these NPCs where they actually increase the spawning of low and mid tier armor and reduce the chances of spawning top tier armor. Increased radiation damage based on accumulation of rad points. Also reduced the chances of NPCs spawning with high tier weapons in the early game. Added ability to trade with additional NPCs at hubs, and economy tweaks for a job at the bar keep repeatable missions on veteran difficulty. Now, why did I say this section was a little disappointing? Because I'm sure many of us out there who have played Stalker 2, or maybe just casual fans who played it and then haven't picked it back up, a big complaint was the weight system rhythm that's in the game and how quickly you can become overcumbered to run slower and move slower throughout the world. Obviously, there are ways to improve your character through that process by playing the game, but there are some parts where you're like, man, I wish some things were just a little bit lighter weight so I can carry more things that would be useful. I'm not trying to say I want to carry everything with me at all times. This isn't like a shooter from the 90s, but I'm saying I want to be able to carry a few things so where like I find some really good loot that I'm like, okay, I can take that back to my base, reforge that up to make it a much better weapon, or just sell it. And it feels like oftentimes when I just walk out with just what I need when it comes to going out into the zone, that oftentimes if I just grab like an extra weapon off the ground that I might want to sell, then it becomes an issue of weight and management and having to reuse all these different types, drink a ton of water and drinking a ton of energy drinks just to walk back to the base. But for myself, I do feel like it's very easy to become overcumbered and slowed down, but I do feel like it's not too crazy where it gets in the way of the gameplay. I would just like to see a little more forgiveness to the player to be able to carry a couple more things. Now the rest of the patch notes here are effectively just a ton of fixes. You see some mainline story fixes here, a ton of these are again just kind of blockers that may have gone in the way of your experience of playing the game. Again, we're still going down this list. The zone, a ton of different fixes. So with this patch, like I said earlier, it did focus a lot on fixing things within the game rather than changing things for the better when it comes to the gameplay experience, because I think right now the GSE is definitely still in the state of just getting the game up in a more proper state to run. Like I haven't had that many issues personally while playing the game, though I definitely have had my issues where I needed to download the Unreal Engine tools to be able to either get past like a mission blocker or any kind of bugs that might occur that get in the way of completing a mission, which for some people might not sound like that big of a deal, but for someone like me, I feel like I shouldn't have to download the tools of the engine to be able to maybe unlock a certain section because it's just stuck and it's not progressing me forward. Now one thing I definitely want to see for myself, at least with this update, is like how that shadow casting on the grass from the flashlight actually looks in the game, and actually makes a pretty big difference when it comes to the visual presentation, because like obviously in this game you're gonna spend a lot of time with your flashlight on, and it definitely had like a very kind of like just flat orangey yellow kind of light over things, and you can kind of see now how like it actually does cast shadows on the vegetation, giving that vegetation a little bit more depth and making it feel like much more like a place in the world, because I always thought the vegetation felt almost like 2D in this game, even though clearly it's not, and very well, taking consideration and modeled rather well with, especially with its animations. But you can kind of see like how, hopefully within this video, I think it might be something more you need to see for yourself. You can also see when you walk into an environment as well, like how like it's associated like with the light casting a shadow on this right here. Like even though the anti-aliasing looks a little rough on it, it's part of the reason why it wasn't in the game at first. It just kind of helps create that depth within the gameplay as well, that lets you kind of feel like you are casting light within the world rather than just being like a flat white thing that doesn't really, or yellowy thing I should say, that doesn't really feel like you're in the world. I guess it's just it's an immersion thing. Overall, I'd say this update for Stalker 2 was a nice addition, a lot of fixes, which is very needed when it comes to this experience, like especially when it comes to some of the missions out there where either blockers or has some severe frame drops like I experienced in some of the main missions within the game. So great improvements if you guys have been kind of holding off on playing Stalker 2. Now thousands of bugs have been fixed since the launch of this game that might be worth giving a go if you guys are interested. If you made it this far in the video, I hope I earned your like, maybe even a subscribe, and if you guys will let me know in the comments who made it to the end, leave a green heart, let me know if you guys who the real ones are out there. Thank you all for watching, I really appreciate it. Catch you on the next one. Peace out.